Welcome everyone. I'm Ranjan Dhar from Nibble Foods. I'm the co-founder of Nibble Foods, and we manufacture healthy snacks made out of roasted nuts and seeds. I will not, go into too much details about what we do, but we have mentioned, all our products in the links in the description and also in the pinned comment. So please do support and check it out. So our mission and vision is to empower all and especially generation next with healthy, nutritious and sustainable snacking options without compromising on taste or flavor. So please do support us in our journey, and we look forward to hear from you soon. So with me, I have today, soon to be Dr. Soumam Dutta. He is a PhD scholar at ICMR National Institute of Nutrition from Hyderabad, India, and I am very excited to have him today on the podcast solely because he is currently in his studies and in active research. So he will be able to give us first-hand experience and knowledge about what the current research, studies, and trends are there in the food industry. Uh, Thank you, Shomam, for joining us, and look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Ranjan, for inviting me. And I'm really excited to have a discussion with you on different aspects of nutrition, health, and diet. So I think we can start.
Great, great. Thank you,
Yeah.
Shomam. So, Shomam, the first thing is I wanted to understand what you currently do today, right? In your, uh, you are currently studying as a PhD scholar, right?
So currently, I'm pursuing my PhD in
Mhm.
nutrition from the Department of Endocrinology of ICMR National Institute of Nutrition.
Okay,
We are basically studying vitamin D metabolism and function
okay,
in different preclinical models,
okay.
and we check the efficacy of vitamin D, its different forms and at different dosage levels and combinations, and
Mm-hmm.
how it affects health, body composition, bone health, muscle health. So
Okay.
we are checking both the classical and non-classical functions of vitamin D along with its metabolism.
Okay, okay. So you mentioned efficacy of vitamin D. So can you help us understand what that term means?
So basically, efficacy studies are those studies which are conducted in a controlled environment.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we talk about real life effectiveness studies,
Okay.
there are so many confounding factors which may come in.
Mm.
So what we do, we exclude all those confounding factors and
Mhm.
create a controlled environment, controlled setting where we can perfectly understand the effect of individual nutrients on individual health outcomes.
Okay,
So
okay.
that is the thing.
That's great. And these studies are done on some lab animals, or you are doing it on actual
Uh,
humans?
we have cell culture models
Okay,
in vitro, we have animal models, in vivo models,
okay,
and also later on we proceed for clinical trials.
okay. So, vitamin D is a very important part of our diet. Would you agree to that?
Yes, so it is. So basically, it is a hormone more than a
Mm-hmm.
vitamin. So
Mm-hmm.
in early human beings, those who used to be in sunlight for prolonged hours, they used to synthesize vitamin D naturally.
Okay.
But later on, it became difficult to meet all the requirements through sunlight alone, and
Mm.
that's why slowly this hormone became a vitamin. That is something which we have to consume through diet as well.
Okay.
So deficiency of vitamin D is very common in Indian setting and also worldwide,
Right.
and that's why we are planning for different supplementation and fortification strategies,
Mm-hmm.
food fortification strategies with vitamin D in order to prevent this kind of deficiency disorders.
Okay. Yeah, and today in today's world with the kind of desk jobs, yeah,
Yes.
inside jobs people have, it's very much needed.
Yeah, so sun exposure is limited, and also there are additional factors like air pollution,
Mm.
which may have a very,
Yeah.
important role to play. So air pollution decreases the efficacy of vitamin D production,
Okay.
because the air pollutants, they absorb the UVB proportion
Right.
which we need for vitamin D synthesis.
Right.
So that's a major issue, definitely.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So tell me one thing, I mean, if someone has to get, I mean, vitamin D solely from sunlight, right? So how
Yes.
much exposure do you need in the sun? And what time of the day is best suited for that?
Yeah, so we need midday sunlight, midday sun exposure.
Okay,
So between 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., 30 minutes at least,
okay,
4 days, 3 to 4 days a week,
okay.
and we should expose as much of the body surface as possible.
Mm-hmm.
That will be enough for meeting our daily needs.
Okay.
And also, nowadays, oil and milk are being fortified
Mm.
from FSSAI. There are guidelines for
Mm.
fortification. So
Mm-hmm.
if we consume those kind of fortified food items, then also we can meet our daily needs.
Right. And so that time obviously will change during the summers. I mean, Indian summers, you know, right? So,
Anytime it will be like midday sunlight.
okay, okay.
So ideally, what we suggest is smart sun exposure. We should
Uh-huh.
cover our head
Right,
with a hat. We
right,
can, apply some sunscreen on our face,
right.
because facial skin there won't be much vitamin D production.
Mm-hmm.
But on hands and back and legs, we should not apply sunscreen, and
Right.
we should expose those parts.
Okay.
Definitely, we should protect the head,
Right.
and
I
just for
mean,
30 minutes.
yeah, we should protect us from the UV, I mean, radiation, and I
Yeah,
mean, expose
so
ourselves.
basically, that is the thing which we need for vitamin D production,
Okay.
UVB.
Okay.
It is also responsible for skin tanning,
Ah.
but that thing we have to compromise.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I mean, since we talked about how vitamin D is a very important part of our diet, right? So
Yes.
uh, I mean, goes into my next question, where I ask you about what are the different types of diet, I mean, today people follow, right? And what are, I mean, if you could help us understand what is best
Yeah.
out of them, or depends on person to person.
So, if we talk about an ideal gold standard diet plan, that will be definitely a balanced diet plan
Mm-hmm.
where we have food from different food groups,
Okay.
50 to 60%, or at least 50 to 55% of the total calories should come from carbohydrates, complex
Okay.
carbohydrates, including then 15 to 20%, or maybe 20 to 25% from protein,
Mm-hmm.
and remaining from fat. So that is the ideal balanced diet plan.
Okay.
And their energy requirements will vary depending on individual needs. So
Right.
we calculate the total energy and then split the requirements for carbohydrate and protein and
Okay.
fat based on the ideal ratio. So that is the ideal approach.
Okay.
But there are again different special diets, as I was talking about, like we have ketogenic diets, then we have Atkins diet. So these are all like very low
Right.
carbohydrate diets,
Right.
South Beach diet, Zone diet, and
Paleo diet.
then
Right.
maybe Mediterranean diet,
Yeah.
Paleolithic diet. So
Right.
many diets are coming up nowadays.
Right.
So there are studies which show beneficial effects of some of these diets, not
Mhm.
everything, but many of these diets are good. But we have to look at so many different things when we are going to select a particular regime.
Right. Right. Definitely. And I mean, speaking of those, so you mentioned that 50 to 60% at a gold standard diet, right? 50 to 60%
Yeah. So
consumed from
basically, when we can't monitor, so when we give guidelines for the public,
mm-hmm.
for the population, where we
Mm-hmm.
can't monitor them on a daily basis, we
Mm-hmm.
should definitely suggest 50 to 60% of carbohydrate.
Right.
But under special clinical situation where we can monitor the subject on a
Okay.
regular basis, there we can modify these ratio and experiment
Right.
different things.
Right, absolutely. So, yeah, I was coming to the carbohydrates part. Okay, you said complex carbohydrates. So, I just wanted to break that down a little bit, right? So,
Yes.
By complex carbohydrates, do you, I mean, today's rice that we get in the stores today, right?
Yeah.
Online or offline, those are polished, those are very much processed, I would say, ultra processed
Yes.
to some extent, right? So, would you
Yes.
recommend having a different type of rice, sweet potatoes? I mean, what's the recommendation?
So basically, complex carb we can get from whole grains,
Okay.
definitely, including millets.
Mm.
Millets are very important.
Mm.
We should include them in our diet
Okay.
as they are rich in dietary fiber. Also, we get complex carbs from fruits, vegetables,
Mm.
and roots and tubers,
Okay.
and so on. So there are so many
Right.
different sources of good quality complex carbs.
Right, right. Definitely. And I mean, millets are also being promoted, and today it has become a
Yeah,
superfood, right?
the
So, yeah,
nutritional.
right,
Yes.
right. So, the recommended daily intake of calories, the energy is I think 2000 kilocalories, if I'm not mistaken. So, that
Yeah,
still
so
remains the same.
that is recommended
Hmm.
from the government,
Right.
and so usually it should be like around 25 to 30 calories per kg body weight.
Okay, okay, okay. That's great information.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So yeah, I mean, let's dive a little bit deeper onto the types of diet. So
Yes.
I'll take some examples and you tell me. I mean, you can explain that better. So
Sure.
for example, say a diabetic patient, right? So what kind of diet should they follow?
Diabetic patients, definitely they should follow a highly balanced diet. They should count everything what they are eating. We should not put them into something which is very new, like a new dietary regime or something. We should not play with all these things.
Okay.
The standard approach is to recommend 50 to 55% of carbohydrate, and
Mm.
remaining calories we can split between fat and proteins.
Okay.
So otherwise, if we there are studies where beneficial effects have been observed with low carbohydrate diets and
Mm.
ketogenic diets in type 2 diabetes mellitus especially.
Mm. Mm.
But again, there are so many safety issues. There are chances of hypoglycemia
Mm.
which might be there. So the ideal diet for the diabetic patients will be a balanced diet
Okay.
with higher food diversity, low glycemic index food, and low GL glycemic load foods,
Mm. Mm.
and more of complex carbohydrates,
Mm.
and more of vegetables, good quality protein.
Okay.
That's how.
Right. So can
Yeah.
you help us understand this term glycemic index? I mean, what does it mean?
So glycemic index, I'm telling you in a very simple way. So basically, after consuming the food,
Mm.
how much blood sugar is it increasing?
Okay.
So we can compare it with a reference carbohydrate, that is white bread.
Okay.
Compared to that, the particular food which you are consuming, how much blood sugar is being raised by that particular food, that is
Okay.
glycemic index. So higher glycemic index food items
Mm.
will increase your blood sugar levels after consumption as compared to
Okay.
lower glycemic index foods.
Right, right. So you would say white bread, then I mean refined sugar, these are low, I mean high glycemic index.
Yeah, rice, then
Rice.
even certain millets like ragi,
Hmm.
and then all these breads and refined food items,
Right, right. Yeah,
refined wheat flour, and so on. Yeah.
right. I think that should be a mandatory thing in the nutritional labels also, right? To
Yes,
mention the
definitely.
glycemic index so that people are aware, right?
Nowadays, it like as of now, it's not mentioned, but
Yes,
we
yes.
have different lists where
Right,
we have, from which we can understand the GI of different food items.
right.
That should be used as educational tools for the diabetic patients
Absolutely.
when we counsel them.
Absolutely. So you mentioned about Atkinson's diet, right? So can you help us explain what that diet is?
So Atkins diet, it's basically a low carbohydrate diet,
Hmm.
low carbohydrate, moderate protein, and high fat. So usually the carbohydrate will be less than 20% of the total calorie needs,
Okay.
and protein will be around 25 to 30%,
Okay.
and 55 to 60%, 65% will be from fat.
Okay.
So initially, we start with a low carbohydrate, like total 25 to
Mm.
30 grams of carbohydrate per day,
Mm.
and then slowly, gradually, we increase the carbohydrate intake up to around 100 grams.
Okay.
So this has been found to be beneficial for weight loss programs and so
Mm.
on. So it's a very old concept. In 1970s, I guess,
Right.
Dr. Atkins, he developed this diet plan. He was a
Okay.
cardiologist.
Okay.
So we also have a modified Atkins diet,
Mm-hmm.
where it is a bit more shifted towards a ketogenic pattern, where the
Okay.
carbohydrate is much more restricted.
Mm.
Otherwise, there is no restriction in the modified Atkins diet, and there are so many studies also done on modified Atkins diet. We call it MAD.
Okay. Okay. That's great. So, I mean, you also briefly mentioned about the ketogenic diet there. So, the
Yes.
difference between Atkins diet and ketogenic diet is the carbs being less in ketogenic diet.
Usually, the carb content will be a bit, it will be more restricted in a ketogenic diet,
Okay.
and the
Okay.
fat content will be much more increased,
Okay.
so that it gets shifted towards a ketogenic pattern, so that the
Mm.
body produces more of ketone bodies
Mm.
and the fat stores break down. So, that is the idea behind a ketogenic diet plan.
Okay. So, I mean, help us understand what is ketones. I mean, how they are produced in the body and what's their
So
purpose.
ketones are basically ketone bodies. So there are three compounds: acetone, acetoacetic acid, and beta hydroxybutyric acid. These are the three ketone bodies, which are basically the byproducts of incomplete fat breakdown.
Okay.
So when we do not consume carbohydrate, or consume very less amount of carbohydrate,
Mm-hmm.
our body starts using our fat as the source of energy,
Mm.
because brain needs a continuous supply of glucose, and when it is not available, it can utilize ketone bodies,
Right.
and it can be utilized by other organs as well.
Okay.
So that's why from carbohydrate metabolism it gets shifted to
Mm.
this ketone body production.
Right.
So when carbohydrate is not available, fat breakdown will be incomplete and
Mm.
ketone bodies will be produced.
Okay.
And this way, fat stores will be broken down over the period of time. So leading to weight loss. That is the idea.
Right, right. Yeah, and obviously, I mean, see, I mean, people should consult their doctors while, I mean, following and
Definitely.
understanding these diets, right? I mean,
Definitely.
yeah,
So nowadays, many blogs and videos are available on ketogenic diets. Those are very dangerous. You should
mm,
not start anything suddenly
right,
without having proper knowledge of your own system
right,
and the biochemistry which is working behind all these things. So
right.
definitely, you should visit a medical professional, a qualified dietitian. Then only
Mm.
you should, plan for such things,
Okay,
and then to get the maximum benefits. Otherwise, there are so many side effects.
absolutely. Yeah, and it could cause, I mean, I mean, just reducing the carbs suddenly could cause a
Yes,
fall in your blood sugar levels also, right? Which could
there are
cause
so many
the,
side effects.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, right. Absolutely. So, I mean, we briefly touched upon in our introduction on the Mediterranean diet, right? So, this is
Yes.
something new. Tell us about it.
So Mediterranean diet, it's an excellent diet plan. It's definitely balanced,
Mm-hmm.
and it is followed. Initially, it used to be followed by the people who are staying around the Mediterranean Sea area.
Okay.
So they have a higher consumption of fish and seafood,
Mm.
definitely because the Mediterranean Sea is around,
Right.
and higher consumption of whole grains,
Okay.
fruits and vegetables, then herbs and spices. So all
Right.
these plant-based things as well as fish.
Okay.
So also a moderate consumption of dairy products are allowed,
Mm.
like yogurt, cheese,
Mm.
milk, and then also there will be a restriction on red meat intake,
Mm-hmm.
and HFSS food consumption, and ultra processed food consumption.
Okay.
And alcohol is a vital part of the Mediterranean diet, red wine especially,
Right.
but we suggest it not to be, included.
Right.
As much as possible, we should avoid it.
Right. Right. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, the studies on red wine, just to go off topic a
Yeah,
little bit, studies on red wine, I think the element resveratrol is
Resveratrol, yes.
yes. So that's still inconclusive, right? I mean, people say that it helps in the heart health, but that's still inconclusive.
Definitely, resveratrol is a very important. Like it's a good antioxidant. It has so
Mhm.
many, biological properties,
Mhm.
and there are other polyphenolic compounds also which are found in red wine.
Red wine, yeah.
But there are so many other associated problems with
Right,
alcohol consumption,
right,
and we do not have large scale long term studies which can support alcohol consumption,
right,
so
right.
better to avoid.
Yeah, the disadvantages are more than the advantages, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and it leads to dependence. Alcohol, if we
Mm,
start today, we don't know tomorrow we may need more and more amount, so
mm,
it's
mm,
not a good idea.
mm. Say, for example, I mean, I want to follow a Mediterranean diet, right? But I'm a vegetarian, right? So fish and
Yeah.
meat I cannot have. So what can I replace?
You
In,
can replace fish with legumes, pulses, nuts,
okay,
and then what else? Yeah, pulses, nuts, legumes,
right,
soybean you can include,
right. Tofu,
mushrooms.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and dairy products are allowed, so
right.
milk you can include.
Okay, that's great. So
If
I
you're
mean,
not
we
a
can
vegan, you can follow this. I mean, you can include milk.
right paneer, all those stuff
Yeah.
is
So
fine.
there is a vegan version of Mediterranean diet as well.
Hmm.
So there, all the animal products are excluded.
Okay, okay. That's great. So, I mean, people following Mediterranean diet, I mean, who does follow Mediterranean diet? I mean, is it solely for the purpose of weight loss, or is there a overall benefit to it?
It's for general health and well-being. Weight
Okay,
loss, if you restrict calories,
okay,
you will lose weight
right,
with the Mediterranean diet.
right.
This term is kind of difficult to pronounce. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you restrict calories,
Mm.
you will lose weight. If
Okay,
you do not restrict calories, you won't lose weight even with the Mediterranean diet.
right,
So
right.
Mediterranean diet is a very healthy approach for general health and well-being. If you
Mm-hmm.
want to lose weight, you have to restrict the calories
Right.
and
So,
increase physical
yeah.
activity.
So then that goes back to ketogenic diet and the other diet that we talked about, right? So,
No, for we can restrict the calories, but we may not reduce the carb intake.
okay,
The
okay.
total calorie intake will be reduced,
Mm.
but 50 to 55% of the calorie will come from carbohydrate.
Got it.
So
Got
that
it.
is the approach.
Okay, great. So, I mean, just to talk about the Mediterranean people, right? I mean, since we're talking about their diet, they consume olive oil also, right?
Yeah,
Extra
olive oil
virgin
is
oil.
a, I missed out. Olive oil is a very important part of Mediterranean diet.
Okay,
Extra virgin olive oil, especially the first uh,
mm,
press.
right. For first press, cold
Yeah,
pressed
yeah,
version of it, right?
yeah.
So I mean, in India, I mean, we do not consume that. I mean,
Yeah.
naturally, right? So, would
So
you
it's not
recommend
suitable
any
for
other?
Indian cooking.
Yeah, yeah,
The
please.
smoke point of extra virgin olive oil is very less, so it's not suitable for cooking. It's good for salad dressing and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. It should be consumed
Okay.
without any cooking. Extra
Mm.
virgin olive oil. There are some cooking grade olive oils which can be used, but extra virgin olive oil, if we talk about, we should
Mm.
not cook it. That to
Right,
Indian cooking, it's not suitable.
right, right. So, I mean, the oils that we consume, say, I mean, the ghee, right, butter,
Yeah.
those are still fine. I mean, in moderation, of course, right?
In moderation, we should consume a mixed oil.
Okay.
Mostly animal source fats we should avoid.
Mm.
There are groups of people who support ghee consumption, butter consumption,
Mm.
but again, we do not have large scale studies to
Okay.
support, ghee and butter consumption. We can definitely include them, but in moderation. Should
Right.
not be more than 5 grams per day,
Okay. Okay.
and total fat consumption should be definitely less than 20 grams per day visible fat,
Right.
and that should include a different varieties of oils,
right.
sunflower, safflower, rice bran,
Okay.
corn oil, sesame oil.
Mm,
The more the variety, the better health benefits we can enjoy.
right, right. Yeah, so in oils also there are, I mean, like you spoke about fats, right? There is saturated fat, trans fat,
Yes.
polyunsaturated fat. So can you just give us a brief explanation about what are those and
So the fats which get solidified,
mm,
especially when the temperature is low, those are
mm,
mostly saturated fat like ghee, butter,
okay,
which we get in solid form.
okay,
Those are saturated fats,
okay,
and those are which are liquids mostly in room temperature. Those are mostly unsaturated fats. So
okay,
the vegetable oils, those are unsaturated,
okay.
and mostly the animal fats like lard,
Mm,
tallow,
mm, mm,
then ghee, butter.
mm,
These are saturated fats.
okay.
Even coconut oil is
Mm,
a saturated fat, but that is rich in MCTs, medium chain triglycerides,
okay.
which have health benefits.
Mm,
So coconut oil is saturated, but not that bad for health. It
okay,
has, uh, positive effects.
okay. Okay, so I mean, just trying to understand from a health perspective, so people should have those oils which are high in polyunsaturated fats, saturated fats, or monosaturated fats.
Polyunsaturated fatty acids, monounsaturated fatty acids, like olive oil, it's mostly rich in mufas,
Okay,
oleic acid,
okay.
and there are oils which are rich in kufa,
Hmm.
like the sunflower oil, rice
Hmm.
bran oil.
Hmm.
But the important thing is to maintain a balance between the omega 6 and omega 3 fatty acids.
Okay,
So
okay.
usually Indians have a tendency to consume more and more of omega 6 fatty acids
Hmm. Hmm.
and less of omega 3 fatty acids, because omega 3 fatty acids mostly we get from deep sea fishes,
Okay.
salmon, herring, mackerel,
Hmm. Hmm.
which we usually do not consume that much.
Hmm. Hmm.
And there are plant sources like flaxseed, chia seeds,
Hmm. Hmm.
the walnuts,
Hmm.
that also we do not consume that much.
Right.
So overall, there is a tendency of reduced omega 3 consumption,
Hmm.
and omega 6 we get mostly from these vegetable oils,
Hmm.
and that's why the ratio becomes very high, omega
Okay.
6 to omega 3,
Right.
which leads to more inflammation in the body. It leads to a
Hmm.
pro-inflammatory
Hmm.
status. So
Hmm.
that's why we suggest to increase omega 3 consumption.
Hmm.
So those who are vegetarians, they can include flaxseed, chia seeds, walnuts, and those who are non-vegetarians, they could include fish oils. I'm not talking about supplements,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
uh, have this food first approach.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Yeah, so I mean, so to sum it up, I mean, we should have those oils which are rich in polyunsaturated fatty acids.
Polyunsaturated fatty acids.
Right, right. Yeah, so
Nuts consumption is very good.
hmm, right,
Nuts are rich in good quality fat.
right. Omega 3 and polyunsaturated.
Omega 3, omega
Okay,
6, mostly omega 3.
okay, great. So I mean, tell us about any other diet that you might think that is better, like paleo diet. I mean, is it something else?
So paleo diet basically it's based on the concept that our genes are still not adapted to the modern dietary pattern which we are having.
Okay.
So we should consume the kind of foods which our ancestors were consuming in the Paleolithic era,
Hmm.
which ended almost in 10,000 BCE. So at that time, what people were consuming, our genes are adapted to that, and we should eat uh, based on their food pattern, like whatever they used to consume. So
Hmm.
mostly it is rich in a higher consumption of lean meat,
Yeah.
then fruits, vegetables, and less cooking, mostly raw food consumption,
Okay.
and dairy, and then processed food items, agriculture related food items like grains,
Hmm.
legumes, these are completely excluded.
Okay.
So this way what happens, the diversity of the diet reduces, which
Hmm.
is not that ideal.
Okay.
We should, when we talk about a good diet plan, there should be more of diversity and variety. And when I talk about diversity, I refer to both between group diversity,
Mm-hmm.
between food group diversities, and within food group diversity.
Okay.
So in Paleolithic diet, so many food groups are excluded, which
Mm.
is not that ideal.
Right.
But there are some people who are getting benefits out of it, but it's not that sustainable,
Mm.
what
Mm.
I feel.
Right.
So
Right.
most of these special diet plans are not that much sustainable.
Right.
Once you stop visiting your dietitian or doctor,
Mm.
it
Mm.
becomes difficult to follow it. So the
Right.
best thing is to stick to the traditional uh, diet
Means
pattern,
diet. Yeah.
traditional food system,
Mm.
and a healthy, balanced diet.
Right, right. Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, I mean, whatever works and you can sustain for a long time, I mean, you
Yeah.
should follow that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, tell me one thing. I mean, we talked about all these various diets, right?
Yeah.
So, and of course, it depends from person to person, right? But
Yeah.
as Indians, I mean, I understand you mentioned carbs, 50 to 60% carbs in a balanced diet, but as Indians, we tend to consume more carbs than that,
Yes.
right? Would you
Yeah.
agree? I mean, so how could we restrict that? I mean, how can we measure these things in our day-to-day dietary plans?
Yes, so as you said, mostly in these Asian and especially the South Asian countries, this is the problem. We
Hmm.
eat lot of carbohydrate. We eat, lot of rice, lot of bread, chapati, all these things, and very less amount of fruits, vegetables, protein. So mostly we try to fill our tummy with carbs, which is not a good thing. So the ideal thing is to follow the my plate concept that we have. So when we have a plate, we should divide it into four compartments.
Mm-hmm.
One compartment should be filled with rice or chapati. Two compartments should be filled with vegetables, including raw and cooked vegetables, raw vegetables like salad, or we can also include fruits. And one part should be filled with protein, which can be either animal protein or plant protein. Along with that, we can include a yogurt or curd or one serving of milk. So, whenever we are planning our breakfast, lunch, dinner, these three major meals, we should follow this my plate concept. And suppose, like, somebody wants to eat something like poha, then also try to follow this my plate concept. So add two parts of vegetables, one part of poha, and try to add some protein, like you can take an egg with it, or maybe some pulses, green gram, or sprouts. Somehow we should try to follow this my plate concept whenever we are planning any meal.
Right, that's
I
great.
think
Yeah.
we can control the portions.
Absolutely. So, also, I mean, since we spoke about all these diets, right, there is also this concept of fasting, intermittent fasting that has
Yes.
cropped up and is on the trend, right? So, what is your
Yes.
take on that?
So intermittent fasting, definitely there are studies which are showing promising effects, especially in weight loss and controlling all these non-communicable diseases. What we have like metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular diseases. So intermittent fasting is showing promising effect, and so there will be time restricted feeding basically. So we have a period in the day where we don't eat, and again we have a window when we can eat something. So there can be an 8 hours gap, 16 hours, 12 hours. So different types of regimes are there. So those who can follow under supervision, for them it's good, it will work. But if we can't stick to it properly, then there won't be any added benefit. So
Right.
such things become important when somebody is facing the plateau, like
Yeah.
beyond, after a certain time point they are not able to reduce weight.
Mm.
That time such special things we can follow.
right,
But generally, it's better to stick to the traditional food system and a balanced diet, as I was talking about, because
right.
food is highly related to mood.
Hmm.
If you have to fast for a prolonged time, it won't be suitable for many people. Like,
Right.
if I talk about myself, I need my full balanced meal
Hmm.
every 4 hours,
Right.
like that.
Right, absolutely. And does studies show that, I mean, intermittent fasting can again be linked to the ketones concept that you explained, right? Where it is helping in weight loss, like you mentioned it. I mean, when someone plateaus out in their weight loss journey, right, then intermittent fasting is another way to get to the next level, right? So,
Yeah, so it may not be linked to ketosis. Ketosis, again, if we reduce the carb, then only it will lead to the ketosis thing. Other way, it may not always lead to ketosis.
okay,
So there is a
okay,
biology and biochemistry
right,
of fasting. Based
right,
on that, there will be weight loss.
right, right. Understand. So,
Basically, it's calorie restriction
mm-hmm. Okay,
along with this time factor
right.
included in.
Right. So, I mean, does intermittent fasting also helps in healing the body in some way? Uh,
Healing in the sense,
Healing in the sense, say, for example, our body produces, I mean, radical cells. I will not call them cancerous cells, but
like free
radical cells
radicals,
throughout the day.
oxidative stress, and all.
Right.
Yeah, there are studies which are showing promising effect.
Right.
Even you can get such benefits from a Mediterranean diet
Mm.
with lots of fruits and vegetables, or maybe with a traditional Indian diet with lots of fruits and vegetables,
Mm.
you can get such benefits.
Okay.
We should include food items which are rich in antioxidants
Mm.
and such anti-inflammatory compounds,
Mm.
mostly the phytochemicals which we get from fruits and vegetables.
Mm.
That will be good enough to prevent free radical damages.
Right, right. In COVID, we saw a treatment called as stem cell infusion or therapy, right? So this
Stem cell.
intermittent fasting also helps produce stem cells in our body, which bolsters our immune system in some
As
way.
of now, we don't have such
Okay,
evidence. Yeah.
okay, okay.
Immunity, so immunity boosting, that is again a vague concept, because
Mhm.
immunity literally will be boosted when a pathogen enters the body. When
Okay,
an antigen enters, then only immunity will be boosted.
right.
With food and diet, what we can do is that we can maintain a homeostasis, we can maintain the health of our immune system.
Hmm.
But immune boosting is not an ideal thing.
Right,
Like, why to boost the immune, performance?
right,
There will be more damage if it is boosted unnecessarily. When
right.
a pathogen enters, then only it will be boosted. Otherwise, it will not be.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so true. Yeah. So by again coming to the term of homeostasis, so it means maintaining balance, right? If I'm
Yes.
right. Okay. Great.
So we should, when we talk about immune system, particularly, the ideal situation is homeostasis.
Hmm.
Unnecessary immune activation is not a good thing. So
Okay.
when we talk about immune boosting, that mostly refers to this unnecessary immune activation. Why to do that?
Mm. Right, right. So that's great, Shomam. So I think I mean we had a great conversation. So just
Yes.
to I mean one last question from my end. So I mean in the society today that we live in, so right. I mean from a food and nutrition health standpoint, what do you see is a big challenge that we are facing?
So basically, the challenge nowadays are multiple. Mostly, the thing is a lack of dietary diversity.
Hmm.
We tend to eat similar type of food every day,
Hmm.
and a high consumption of HFSS food products, like food products which are high in fat, salt, and sugar, added
Okay.
fat, salt, and sugar.
Hmm.
Also, higher consumption of ultra processed food products.
Hmm.
So these things are increasing day by day due to rapid, urbanization, westernization.
Right.
We don't have time to cook meals, so we just buy some packaged food products which are
Hmm.
not always healthy.
Hmm.
If it is healthy, then it's great, but those kind of healthy packaged food items are not available usually.
Right.
And again, there are so many false claims which are being mentioned on the food packages, especially in the front of the pack labels
Mm-hmm.
where they say low
100%
calorie,
organic.
low
Yeah.
fat, low
Right.
sugar. So when something is low sugar, mostly those products will be high in fat, and when something
Mm.
is low fat, those products will be high in sugar. So
Right.
we should always read the food labels, and the common people, they should be educated.
Right.
They should understand what different terms mean. Otherwise there will be a halo effect, what we
Mm,
call.
mm,
So
mm.
they will think that they are eating healthy, but actually they are not.
Right.
So that's why FSSAI is suggesting a front of pack nutrition labeling, a health star rating.
Okay.
So the higher stars means better food products, so they are also scoring it based on the
Mm.
fat, salt and sugar content.
Right.
So yeah, so we should read food labels. That is
Mm,
very important
mm,
nowadays.
mm.
And we should increase our diversity. We should include different types of food products in our diet.
Okay.
And we should stick to the traditional food system. Should
Right.
not follow different influences and all.
Mm.
Follow your own, local diet
Okay.
patterns, what you have.
Right. Right. And always consult your doctor and nutritionist.
Definitely. Yeah.
Right. That's very
Yeah.
important. Right. So, yeah, I mean, thank you, Somam. That was a
Yes.
fascinating and informative conversation. And
Thank you
we
so much
hope,
for having me here.
right,
Yes.
we hope to have you back soon again with such content, right? And thank you everyone for tuning in and watching this conversation or hearing it, if you may. And please do share, like, and subscribe to our channel. And you can also comment your thoughts about our discussion, right? So that we can keep on improving, I mean, from one podcast to the another. And we hope to bring you more such informational content in the future. So thank you again, Shomam, and
Thank you so much.
thank you everyone. Yeah, have a great day.